What is going on? Good morning or good afternoon for those joining me over here in England. It's Mindset Monday or MindGym Monday. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Elle, mindset coach and room tilter, and I am thrilled to be starting the week with you. I always am. It brings me so much joy, but it brings me even more joy because of who I'm going to be talking with. I have the most wonderful, amazing executive wellness and mindset coach, my fellow room tilter. I've got Karla here with me.
Hey, Ellie. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Oh, of course. Happy Monday. And hello to everybody joining in. I already see that Lane said hi. Hey, Lane. How's it going? Um, Karla, I mean, we always have to start off with something. I'm going to give you the choice because I couldn't make up my mind. Gratitudes or intention?
mm,
You tell me.
okay. I love gratitude. I'm all about it, but we'll go with intention since it's the beginning of the week. Let's set our intentions.
Okay, I love it. And for those of you chiming in, please let us know one word, one sentence. What's your intention for today, for the week? Because we all know, like, especially Monday, Monday is my favorite day of the week. And it's because I get to choose how I start it and it builds momentum. And I think it all starts with intention. So
I
happy.
love it. Favorite day of the week? Love it. Hey, Natasha. Glad you're here with us live. She's coming in all the way from Maryland. So we've almost covered all the time zones. Well,
Absolutely.
US time zones.
We're everywhere. We're worldwide. Okay, so what would be your intention, Karla? What do you
My
think?
intention is to press on. And I've been using the term fight on in the things that I've been putting out this morning. But of course, it doesn't always have to be a fight. I always think, we don't necessarily want people to feel like they're struggling or in a battle, but press on because there's plenty coming at us determined to stop us. And my intention is to 100% press on full court press. I've got some things I want to achieve by the end of the day that will set me up for an amazing week. So my intention is to press on. I'm not sitting back.
I support you as you press on, and I appreciate you sharing that as well, which actually sounds like really relevant to what we're talking about today, which will, I think we've already disclosed a little bit in our posts when we were talking about hopping on today, but I'm really excited to talk about it. So I guess my intention would probably be, again, similar to what we're talking about today. This is all too relevant, but like accept and adapt because I am working with a new team here in England, a professional team, and this is my first season with them. And we are right in the thick of it of preseason. We are kind of hitting the ground running, and football or soccer, it moves so fast.
Mhm.
So because I'm with a new team, I'm still getting the hang of things. I'm still figuring out what their system is, how they operate, getting to know people, players, staff. So there's a lot going on, and I think it can be really easy to just, there's a lot of change, to like resist it or to jump to conclusions or assumptions or just want to know everything and be good at everything right away. But for me, I'm like, I'm going to accept that this is all new and I'm just going to be ready for it and adapt.
Oh, I
So
love that. And congratulations on joining the new team. That's awesome.
thank you, I
Mhm.
appreciate it. But honestly, like, both of our intentions, and everybody in the chat, keep throwing them in, please. KFG, yes, Lane.
Yes. I like how he picked up Coach Krista's term, press
Right,
on or KFG,
right.
hashtag KFG.
Every day, but definitely an intention. But I think both of what we were talking about and referring to is really relevant to what we're going to speak about today. So I will kind of set the stage a little bit, and then I want to let you take the floor on a lot of this because I know that you've got a lot of wealth and knowledge and experience to share with us. So we were talking about, like, for leaders, we are living in a world of change, not just with leaders, all of us. We're living in a world of constant change. So we don't want to leave it to chance, right? We want to flex that mental muscle. We want to build that mental muscle with how we can be adaptive, right? How we can be sharp and ready for change, because that's the world we live in, right? The constant is change. So how can we flex that mental muscle? So maybe I'll throw it back to you with, like, can you expand a little bit on that experience of change and what it means to be adaptable to change?
Absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is cats out of the bag. I think that we're all leaders. We are all leaders, and
Yeah.
someone's looking at us for leadership, right? But if you don't know who's looking and you can't imagine who's looking, remember that you're leading yourself, right?
Mm.
And so, this idea of leadership and having the mental acuity to lead um, in the midst of change, challenge, economic fallout, all of these things
Yeah.
is a critical skill for all of us to develop and to cultivate. And then, as I like to say, curate, right?
Mm.
Because we have to keep putting in that work. We have to keep doing the mental exercises to maintain the mental acuity required for change and required to be successful in the midst of that. So, what
Mm.
comes to mind for me when I think about that is resilience. And I'll share that I've always thought about resilience as bearing up under,
Mm.
being able to carry a load on your back and quote unquote bounce back from it, right?
Mm.
Or keep fighting on or keep pressing on, as I like to, as I said for my intention this week, right?
Right.
But I read this incredible article recently, and it's not a new article, but it was new to me. And I was like, yes, thank you, by Sean Aker and Michelle Galen. So they actually published it in the Harvard Business Review in June of 2016. And the headline is Resilience is about how you recharge, not how you endure.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So it's this idea of us as leaders tapping in to our ability to recharge so that we can practice resilience.
Okay. So this is a different perspective from what I'm used to hearing about and even talking about when it comes to resilience. Because I think oftentimes we think of resilience as like we're carrying a load, but we are pressing on. Like, how can
Hmm.
we do more? How can we push through the wall? And that is what comes to mind, I think, for a lot of us when we think of resilience. So this is a different take on it when we're talking about recharging.
Yes.
Like, tell me more about this recharging, because this is a different perspective, and I think we all need to hear it.
Absolutely. And before people check out, right? They're like, oh, she's talking about self care again, right? I just want to get into the why behind the what. Okay. So in this article, they talk about how our economy pays $62 billion a year for people who are pressing through and bearing up under and failing to recharge, right?
Mhm.
Literally, the cost of us running ourselves ragged, of continuing to show up when we're not able to perform fully, right, is to the tune of $62 billion.
Right.
And like, I'm sure the scientists in the room are like, well, exactly how did they get to that number? How did they reach that calculation? And I love that. I hear you. I'm into that sometimes. But at the end of the day, we know that there's a huge cost.
Yeah.
It's like this huge gorilla just weighing the scales down.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to hemorrhage $62 billion, right?
Mhm.
But this concept of um, absenteeism that we're familiar with in work, where your burnout or your overwhelm causes you not to show up, is
Mhm.
contrasted with the concept that I learned recently called presenteeism,
Mm.
where you're showing up, you're sitting in the seat, you're in the meeting, you're at the office, but you're not able to fully contribute it, right? Your mental acuity is low. Okay.
Yeah.
Your value add is low. But you didn't take days off because you are considering yourself pushing through. You're considering yourself being resilient because you showed up to work today, or
Yeah.
you logged in from your computer. But presenteeism says, I'm here, but you're not getting full productivity or value out of me because I have not done the work, right,
Right.
to bring my full mental acuity. I haven't recharged.
Yeah.
Um, so just coming to fully appreciate that, I like confess to days and maybe years of presenteeism, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Where you think you are being resilient, you think you're being strong, you think you're being a leader by continuing to show up but you're not bringing your full self. So anyway, I will get into how we do the recharge, but the why just really captured my heart.
I'm glad that you shared it, because I think that for me is like, okay, now that I know the why, I can buy into it more, right? So for me, hearing that from you is massive. And I think that we often view, or at least I'm thinking about myself, I often view like anything, any concept with how can I benefit from it? What is it going to give me? But not often are we thinking about like, what's the cost if I don't do it? What's going to happen if I'm not doing it? And
Absolutely.
that is critical. That is critical. I mean, it kind of reminds me of neutral thinking. Yes, I'm going to tie it back to neutral thinking, where
Oh
we're
yeah.
like, hey, there's negativity. Should we just cram it with some positivity? Right? So, like, if I think about my schedule, if I'm doing so much, is the answer to just be like, oh, do you know what? I need to just add an extra hour onto the 24 hours in the day. I'm going to find 25 somehow and build into that. No, it's looking at those. It's the absence of negativity that brings us to neutral thinking, right? And same thing where it's like, this is what it's costing us, which is
Absolutely.
more of a reason to pay attention. I know for everybody tuning in, some of this stuff sounds repetitive, but that is a good thing, right? We're trying to nail it home because this matters, and this is a different perspective on it too. So I'm grateful that you brought it today. I think it's what we need to hear.
And I appreciate you talking about finding that extra hour and turning it magically into a 25-hour day. That was so me, right? So we know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and think you're going to get a different result. So here I am in big law, right? I spent a decade in a corporate law firm, one of the biggest law firms on the planet, representing Fortune 500 companies and high net worth individuals, specializing in white collar criminal defense. And so you can see me in there with my suit. You know, I still love to wear a nice jacket, right? And what I decided to do was just sleep under my desk, quite literally, right? So that I could wake back up after this nap and go back at it. And all I was doing was attempting to find an extra hour literally under the desk, right? So that I could be resilient and tough it out. And instead, I'm just exhausting myself. I'm becoming less and less efficient, right? I'm less creative for sure, right? And just less sharp versus having a clear, defined, I've got to recharge. Here's how I'm going to recharge. My recharge is going to be efficient, right? I'm going to focus on having an efficient recharge instead of trying to figure out how to just drag more hours, drag more time, right? And I'm part of it is telling yourself, I am recharging. Because when I would pass out and not know that I was asleep, that's not as powerful as telling my brain, I am now stepping away. I am taking a break. We are going to sleep now, or we are going for a walk now, or we are going to stare at the wall, right? Or we're going to smell flowers, right? But when you tell your brain, we are recharging, we are ceasing for the purpose of regrouping and recharging, like that is extraordinarily powerful, you know? So anyway, just wanted to lay that image out for you of that person who took the jacket and made a pillow on top of her little briefcase and slept under the desk.
Karla gets it.
But I did not find an extra hour under there. It was still 24 hours in a day. Okay. And what I learned when I took more vacation time, you know, in the first half of the year than I ever had before, and in that same time build almost twice as many hours by that point as I had at that point the year before, is that when I step away to recharge, I'm tapping into my superpower, right? I leave, I recharge, and I come back more focused, more invested, more creative, more courageous, right? And less resentful.
So that reminds me of a conversation I had. I think it was with Krista feels like weeks. It may have been longer, who knows? But not too long ago, we were talking about getting into flow state and how there's this process of getting into flow state and rest. They're two different like areas or steps in that process that include rest. There's like an active rest and a passive rest, but the rest periods are crucial because it allows us to be the most efficient and get into that flow zone. And I won't go into detail with all of it. I can share or post the link of that particular live, but it sounds really similar to what you're talking about here, where like it's what it costs us if we don't, and
Mm-hmm.
also allows us to do because we choose to take it. Even though it might be hard to do, it actually is allowing us to be the most resilient, to be the most adaptive when it comes to change. So
Absolutely.
we touched on the what, we definitely touched on the why too, and I think we're starting to get into the how, but I
Mhm.
want to hear your experience on the how here now, Karla.
Yeah, so in the big picture, I'm really big on the step away. I'm really big on scheduling your quarterly retreat. you
Mhm.
know, I had a therapist tell me, like, based on the level of stress that you're juggling at work and at home, you need to be taking a quarterly retreat, right? Personal retreat. And I value that so much and so highly. And now that's what I do for other women, right? So now I have even more impetus to remember to do that for myself. But we need to be doing this on a daily basis. We
Mhm.
need to figure out how to do that recharge on a daily basis. So, again, maybe it sounds redundant. And thank you, Lane, for saying it's not repetitive, it's consistently important. Mine is that daily walk. I
Yeah.
got up this morning to do my 30-minute walk outside, in Houston, Texas, by the way. Somebody send me a gold medal for walking in, 81 to 85-degree weather at, 7:30 in the morning. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that out here. um, but I was dragging. I was flat out dragging, moving slowly, daydreaming about getting to the park, which would be my halfway mark, and just sitting on the bench and potentially falling asleep. I had a whole visual of falling asleep on the park bench. Okay. But by the time I gotten there, I had the benefit of
Yeah.
moving in that way and moving with the intention, right? Now my mind is like in it, like, oh, what we're doing is recharging.
Yeah.
And now my body is volunteering to follow my mind, right?
Mhm.
And so, okay, yeah, we're feeling recharged. We're working together now. Got it. So that daily walk for me
Yeah.
continues to prove itself as mission critical for my mindset, for my outlook,
Mhm.
right? And then for my ability to keep tapping into my body to be able to maintain the type of focus and mental acuity that I need on a daily basis to do what I do. So
Yeah.
by the time I got to the park, I was back into creative mode. I was back into we got this mode, and I was able to produce, one of the things that I send out regularly to my community before I was even done with my walk, right? But I'm telling you, in the first 10 minutes of it, I did not have the vision of being able to do that.
Yeah.
So, just want to like put that out there. We've got to be doing something physical to maintain the energy, right?
Mhm.
Um, you'd be surprised, that endorphin release that you get that feeds your creativity and ultimately, your power for the day.
Mhm.
Um, and then, having a solid evening routine, which is something I'm challenged with because there's always a small person who wants my routine to be about them. But if you're journaling or decompressing or even list writing,
Yeah.
right? Kind of get things out of your head.
Yeah.
Um, doing three things I'm grateful for right now has been also a great reboot for me. So, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, writing down what went well today or what I'm grateful for from today,
Mhm.
um, it's a recharge. It really is.
Yeah.
So, I'm putting out there these couple wellness practices um, to focus people in on meaningful recharge.
Mhm.
Um, I have a long list of things that I can share. I would love to know what you do to recharge.
Well, I'm gonna highlight that I'm hearing a couple things from you. I'm hearing a little bit about the morning routines, like how you kind of break up your day, and then the evening routine and the kind of wind down as well. So being really intentional and deliberate about all of those, and it looks different for all of us. I would say mine are very similar to yours. I know that Lane has heard me talk about this, but I definitely get my walks in all throughout the day, and I want to bring up a point that like I can tell throughout the day that when the idea of a walk is something that I'm resisting, that's probably when I need it the most.
Mm, mm,
So I can tell there are signals that go off for me where I'm like trying to push through hard, do something through something, and my brain becomes mush. It becomes like ineffective. And that's when I'm like, I've got to finish this task or these tasks because for some reason I think today that multitasking is a good idea and I can do it, even though it's not worked for me in the past. But hey, maybe today, now is the moment.
right.
Maybe I should get a walk in. Oh no, I've really got to finish this. That is probably the time when I really need it the most. I need a
Mhm,
little reset. I need to rest in the moment and then come back.
mhm,
Is a big one for me. I would say that something I do throughout the day, and my partner sometimes probably perceives it as like a not helpful thing because the way it sounds, but for me it is. So like it sounds like sighing a lot throughout the day where I just take really deep breaths, and sometimes I'll do it a few times in a row. And I don't know if you've ever heard someone else near you do this and just go right? It's like immediately he's like, "What's wrong? Are you okay? Is something wrong?"
mhm. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
But for me, I'm just letting go of whatever I can tell is starting to feel heavy. So I'm in the moment, I'm just choosing to take a couple breaths, release that tension from my body because I know I carry it. I carry stress in my body. That's my way of just doing a little mental reset. And I will talk to myself out loud and just be like, hey, we're good, do this one thing. I'll give myself either like positive talk or instructional talk and just tell myself what to do next. And I'm doing that all throughout the day as my way of just moving forward because it can be, I'm a pretty like when I commit to something, I just want to see it through. And sometimes that does me really well. And other times it means that I get so fixated that I start to lose focus of what's important in that moment or
Mhm.
why the reason why I need to shift my focus. And so because I've become more and more aware of that, the breathing is really helpful for me to keep me on track and keep me present and moving forward and releasing tension.
Yes, to the breath work. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it does me good.
Even 2 minutes, right, of deep breathing, is a huge reset and recharge. Absolutely. Wow. So one of the questions that I saw over here, was so good. They said, I've been thinking about this very thing this weekend. How can we apply the work rest ratio for interval training more into our personal lives? Love that. So I think runner Jackie is comparing literally interval training in the sports and workout world, right? With what we can be doing in our work lives. So intense intervals and then rest the body, for maybe 30 seconds, and then intense intervals and then rest. In the article that I was referring to, they talk about internal recovery and external recovery and having a combination of both. So, internal recovery would be those practices that you have during the workday, during the work process. And for some people, that's inside the workspace or around the workspace, right? Um, and then those external recovery processes are those things that happen outside of the workspace or the workday. And both are needed. And I tell you what, I skipped past the internal recovery processes, and was always trying to leave work at work so that I could get home to rest, right? But the mental acuity that we need to adapt to the changes that are happening throughout the day, the stress levels that we manage throughout the day, require us to have some built-in stoppage points and
Mhm.
recovery points in the workspace, in the work environment, in that work day. So, of course, the walk is a great one. Deep breathing is a great one. Hydration, right?
Mhm.
Just maintaining a minimal level of water is a big one, and I'm sure I've talked
Mhm.
about that before, but it's huge. Um, if it does nothing else but build in breaks, associated with drinking too much water, right? But your brain and your body actually need that water to be effective, and to function at optimal. So, I'm focused on eight ounce glasses of water a day. I should probably be doing half of my body weight in water, but at a minimum, right, I'm going to get the 64 ounces in.
Mhm.
And just having that to focus on kind of helps keep me from the zone of all work and no play. And then finally, I'm listening to affirmation videos from YouTube. It's been really great for pulling me out of the funk, if you will,
Mhm.
moments of stalling out or being frustrated. Having these catchy songs, um, you know, in my ears while I'm working on a project helps keep my brain from wandering onto things that make me anxious, right?
Mhm.
Of course, there are lots of great resources for that. I'm talking about YouTube.
Yeah.
The Club Limitless app could be good for that too, right?
We
But just
go.
having, yeah, right. But just having the mindset material there and available to you, whether
Right.
it's while you're working or you take the step away to listen to it, it's really powerful. You know,
Mhm.
having someone say to you, um, you are powerful beyond belief, you
Mhm.
know, and putting that in your mental soundtrack is a great way to recharge.
Absolutely. I think that we've added and covered quite a few different resources, tips, things to add to your routine. If you've got other things that you add to your routine or other ideas, please feel free to add those into the chat so that others can see them and potentially try them. But I love this approach that we've taken today and that you fill this in on, Karla, because again, it's like to be right. We're leading ourselves. We're all leaders, as you said. And so as leaders, we want to be adaptive to change. Like we want to be able to thrive in change, not just survive, because change is the only constant. And so
Mhm,
to be able to do that, we have to be resilient. But instead of seeing resilience as do more, push through, be hard. It's, hey, actually, if I don't take care of myself, if I'm
mhm,
not mindful and intentional about my rest, about my recovery from a mental and from a physical perspective, because those two go hand in hand, then the
mhm.
cost of that is going to be far greater than the benefit of me just pushing through. And
Absolutely.
and the ways that all of us do that, it's going to be different. It is not one size fits all. So hopefully for everybody tuning in, some of these have been helpful for you to maybe try, bring into your routine, give them a go throughout the week, and see how they work for you. But continue to be deliberate and intentional about that, because we know it doesn't just happen overnight. And even if we make it part of our routine, it's a constant choice. We have to choose that. It doesn't just happen by chance. So Karla, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. This is the message I needed to hear to start my week off for sure.
Awesome. Love hearing that, Ellie.
So, for those of you tuning in, whether it's now or later, we have Matt Miller, who's been chiming in the chat. So, check out his LinkedIn profile. And we also have Hubert on tomorrow. So, those two rock stars are going to be sharing their knowledge with you. So, I'm excited for that. But, Karla, thank you again. This has been such a pleasure. And I absolutely adore you. So, best start to my week. And thank you
Yay.
again.
Likewise. All the best. You're incredible.
Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.